We are at ISE 2023. You started, we're going to go through and introduce everybody, but you started by saying, I can't just be on the end, we have to mix it up. So that leads into the fact that we've got a DEI panel as to conversations that we had earlier just about how even our social norms can block women out and not even realize it, right? So my name is Joe Way, and welcome to the Higher Ed AV podcast. We have a good one for you today. We're going to go ahead and start, and I'll just go down. I'm just going to start from that end and go. Okay. I want to make sure I'm following social norms.
Are we introducing ourselves?
You're going to introduce yourselves.
So I'm Karen Ethier. I'm Director of Support Services for IT for Roger Williams University, and also their Search Advocacy Coordinator as well.
Tammy Fouquet, and I'm the Development Partner Manager with QSIS and the co-chair to the AVIX Women's Council.
And
Thank you. I'm Ifat Chowdhury. I work for an integrator involved visual collaboration based in the UK. I also am a founder of What If podcast and a member of AVIX Women's Council UK and the AVIX Membership Committee as well.
Great. So this is a power panel we have right here of what I would say probably the three most influential women for, again, fill in the words, but the advocating for the women in our industry, our various groups and all of that. I guess to start is, we're at a large show. There's a lot of guys, very few women. What is the overall feeling of the show? Do you feel like that it's inviting for women? Is this the type of show where there's more that needs to get done? Again, and maybe Karen, I will start with you, and you can talk about like being locked out at a booth or things along those lines. So I'm opening it up, making it very general, and I'll let you go ahead and start there.
So I do want to just say that I think it's not just a representation of women, but BIPOC community as well, right? So this is an overwhelmingly white industry and overwhelmingly male industry. So I think when we're talking about diversity, equity, inclusion, we need to make sure that we're, considering it from all angles. So I think whenever I come to these kind of things, I'm really aware of it. Like there are, the first booth we walked up to, I was with, a bunch of male colleagues, and the men working the booth all picked off one of the male people in our group and immediately started talking to them, and so the representative was talking to someone who was with me, and he literally physically positioned himself so that I was blocked, and started talking to Ryan and just asking him a lot of questions, and then I was just kind of staring him down, and then he caught my eye and he said, "Oh, and you are?" And I introduced myself, and he said, "Oh, so you're with, basically you're with Ryan." And I said, "No, I'm not." And he said, and then he just kind of turned away, right? Like no questions, no follow up, and I think that's really representative of Joe and I talked about this. I did a panel at the ETC conference where we talked about this exact, problem, and yeah, so.
Tammy?
All right. It's funny that you start with this subject because my coworkers and I were just having lunch, and the first thing we said was, "Man, there's a lot of guys here." Being in a male-dominated industry, I think you always recognize it. Luckily for me, I work for a very diverse company, so I don't exactly see it right away until I do come to a show like this. And it reminds me why it's so important for us to have organizations like the AVIX Women's Council, so that we do have a place where we can come together and know that we can support each other and network together. For me, that is probably the biggest reason why I joined the AVIX Women's Council, and why I still advocate for it, and why it's so important. We have a long ways to go, but I'm very hopeful that we see more change than just 14% women in the industry. So that's why we keep doing this. So.
Yep.
Oh,
So I'm glad Karen mentioned that it's not just about gender and that it's also race, because I've been in the industry for many years and I resisted joining the AVIX was actually, when I looked at the US and even here, the advocates were all white females, generally blonde white females. So really, for me, nobody that was going to relate to me in that sense. So I hope it's changing. I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of male allies, and I think allyship is something that we tackled as part of the IBIX Women's Council in the UK on a webinar last week, and we have got some really good champions across the industry. We need to amplify those allies, and allyship comes in all shapes and forms. It's not just for women, it's also around people's mental health, it's around disabilities, there are so many inequalities that need to be tackled. So we're all on a journey, but I think things are changing really slowly, but it's in the right direction.
And I'm going to come right back to you on that then. So, can you give some? You said it's changing. What are some of the things that we're doing so that I think part of the learning process isn't just knowing what not to do, but what to continue doing if you are doing some things right. So, what are a couple of those things?
So I think panels like this are really helpful. We're seeing a lot more education. I think at this show, when I've looked at the schedule of sessions, free sessions available for everybody, there's a lot more going on now than there ever has been. And it's going to be through education, where organisations need to recognise if you have and actually stats, so people like McKinsey and others have researched that having a diverse workforce will increase your creativity, your productivity, your bottom line by up to 36%. So for any CEOs or even within higher ed, right, you're still targeted with, you still have to operate as a business, you still got to understand how to manage that money and how to make the best out of it. And if someone is saying, well, simply considering diversity, it's not even something that's that difficult. Bringing more people in, having diversity of thought will impact your profitability in a really positive way.
Wow, that's some amazing stats. I mean, to think that much of a difference, and especially when you look at a industry right now that we're suffering as an industry, right? Supply chain, things like that, layoffs of major companies. Well, maybe doing some other practices right, you can now make 36% what the number was more, and maybe we then don't have those other problems. I don't know. Anyone over here continue on? Same idea? I mean, you got a manufacturer too, so you get the whole.
So we're talking like diversity and so I think you're right. I think it's definitely through education and having discussions like we are having today, having great advocates that will allow us to speak. I think those are really important things that allow us to talk about diversity more often. The other thing too is that I can speak for the Women's Council. We're doing some initiatives in 2023 that will allow us to continue that conversation, things around anti-harassment and education around that. Not just like don't do that, but if you're caught in that situation, what would you do? If you're witnessing that situation, what would you do? What is the aftercare for those things? What are the trade shows doing to help protect people from being harassed? Those are the things that I feel are the most important to keep us feeling like we are coming to a big show like this and being safe. So.
Yeah. And Karen, you want to continue with that?
Yeah, I just want to agree with what both of you said. That I think we have seen a marked recognition over the last couple of years, and I think that the allyship has definitely grown. Like it used to be when we tried to have, at least for me, when I tried to have these conversations with my male colleagues, they were not open to the conversation. While now they're coming to me, or people like Joe who are like coming to us and asking us to like share our voices, and I think that's definitely new. And I think that training is a huge part. So at my university, one of the things I do is I do unconscious bias training, and they had me do it. I did our entire freshman class, 1,200 students at once in an auditorium. I'm doing it with hiring managers right now. And we talk a lot about, what do you do when something happens, when you see it, you say it, and where are those like sort of implicit unconscious things that we all do, like those biases that we all carry, that perpetuate problem. So
So now, if taking it a little bit to what I love, we have end user. Sorry, Mike, I'm going to say end user. Manufacturer, integrator. Here's the entire line. How can we draw, as an industry, how do we continue to work together? Because I think it can't be done in any one place. Like I'm proud of like what we've done with ETMA, what you've done with ETC, and how we been able to spotlight it, scholarships, education, and all that. But it's only so if it's only done in one niche, we got to expand it. We have to expand. So, what are some of the things then that we should be thinking of? And this is the hard. This is like every time I do a DEI panel or anything, I don't even know how to ask questions. I do podcasts all the time because I don't even know what the question I should be asking is. Does that make sense? I don't know. So I'm going to throw the mic here.
Let me grab it then. So I think, I did mention like having discussions like this, but it's not just stopping at this discussion. It's taking it back to the organizations that we work with and saying these are the things that we're expecting out of this organization. If we're not doing that, it's ending here. It's at the end of this stage. We need to go back and just say these are the things as a company you should be providing for all of your employees. And you talked about taking it back to your male staff. I mean, and then they're approaching you and asking you how they should interact with you. It's things like that show progress. But if we're not pushing it further, then it's never going to change.
Yeah.
you've hit the nail on the head there, because I think inaction and inactivity is pretty much as bad as whatever the event that happened. Because if you're not creating environments where people feel safe and safe to speak up when they're uncomfortable, then you've got bigger issues. You've got more going on there that you need to solve. So if you're in an environment where you know that people are not going to be open to those conversations, you need to fix that. You need to get that right. If you haven't got that at senior level, it's really, really hard. It's got to be top down and bottom up. It's responsibility doesn't just lie with managers as well. It's got to be, you've got to have everybody with you on that journey.
I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
So the other thing too is hiring a female that's like me, very outgoing and wants to bring these initiatives forward. The reason for that is because when you do, your male colleagues find out you're on staff, and then they come to you and say, you know what, I have females on my team that I would love for them to connect with you. I think that's another way to continue that momentum of bringing diversity to the workplace.
I'm really glad that you mentioned mentoring, because we know that studies have found people mentor people who look like them, right? Or what happens when there are no people that look like me or you, right? So when I started out in this industry, I literally didn't know another woman in the AV industry for the first 5 or 6 years. It was my first ETC conference. I remember calling my partner and being like, there's others like me. I didn't even know that I was out there. So I think, connecting, especially early career, women and BIPOC staff members with mentors that may or may not be in your organization, but using AVIXA or ETC or HETMA or other organizations to find mentors who will, speak to the experience of really career staff. I think that's really, really important. The other thing I just want to say is, Jody, your question about, we have corporate end user integrator. I think, it really speaks to what, we were talking about before, that when we have diverse voices, right, we're more creative, we're more able to come up with new solutions. So I think it's really important in this industry to make sure that we're all working together on these issues from all different perspectives, because I think we bring different things to the game. So like in education, maybe we bring training, right? And then, in corporate, you bring, other aspects, which totally not that. So I think it's really, hearing all the voices from the different experiences.
So, one other thing too is when I started in this industry, I think I had no role models or mentors, and when I looked at executive level, there was definitely no females. I like that I'm seeing a little bit of a change like that, but in all honesty, there still needs more of that glass ceiling broken because there's still very few females at the executive level. So if you're watching, promote some females in your organizations.
Yeah. And then also another question. We're at the largest AV trade show in the world. We're sitting on the video that everyone's going to watch. It looks great. We're sitting on these little things here. We have 68,000 people here, and we have one David Danto who decided to show up and watch us, and 2 other people on a couch. Where's the crowd? We're having this, and yeah, it's going to get sent out, but where's the right? We're smoking mirrors.
Right? It's dead wrong, so you've got to forgive. I forgive people for that as long as they do watch and listen. But I think something else to remember is, as an industry, I can't see any CEO or any manager saying no to business from a diverse customer, and yet we don't work hard enough to reflect the customers that we're serving. Whether your customers are your students or whether they are corporates or whatever they are, you're not going to say no to their money. So why not actually do something to understand what their needs are and actually get to understand their businesses a bit better?
Yeah. That's good. That is your mic drop.
I do want to say to your point of, our not that large audience here, that I think this work is still seen as extra. Like, these conversations are seen as extra, something that, people, if I have time, I'll get to that training, or, but that their primary work is something else, and I've even seen that in my institution. Like, I do a ton of DEI work among faculty, staff, and students, as I mentioned, and sometimes there will be just like comments or something. You presented. I'll say, I presented this conference, here's the topics. Well, maybe you could have done something IT related to conferences. It's usually doing DEI related content. So it's still not seen as something that is central, right, to what we're doing. It's seen as this like extra work, and often being done by the people that it impacts. So again, that importance of allies, because it's exhausting for those of us who are actually experiencing this to always be the ones who have to be doing the work to make it happen.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. So, is there a sense, and like tokenism then, like that you just like of when we talk about you coming out and with Higher Ed AV, it's like, now we're gonna have a DEI panel, and then Karen's gonna be on it. And like, is there a sense of
like, I'm bringing 4 white Jews, so I better.
Do you get where I'm going?
So I write a ring Karen.
But that's not what I mean, but you know what I mean, right? And
I think, but I think that's okay. I think it's okay. I think we just have to start doing it, and then the rest will follow, right? So I think we do need to be intentional. I think sometimes we do need to give the scholarship to the person who wouldn't necessarily have that experience, and not to the person who probably has a better chance. I don't know. I don't really have a problem with it. Like, I think about when I'm doing my own hiring and I advise. I run an equitable hiring program at the university where I train volunteers to serve as equity process advisors to search committees. And one of the things that I say is that, like, no, we're not going to hire that person just because they're a woman or just because they're black, or in some roles, or because they're a man, because in some areas they're more female centric. But having commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion as like a consideration when we're doing hiring, right? And then we can look at both who the person is, but also are they committed to doing this work or not, right?
Yeah.
So not necessarily tokenism, but just considering like those aspects of a person, either their physical, characteristics, experience, or again, their commitment to work.
Yeah. Did you?
Yes.
All right. She wants to add.
I'm sorry. Yeah, so I think what I have to add is we've had this conversation before when you've gone to hire someone and you've got 100 applicants, all male, no female. I think part of that change is that you need to make sure that your hiring description includes things that would allow women to feel that they could also apply for that position, or maybe it's where you are posting that job position is not a place where you're going to get the best visibility. I think those are important facts to put into the hiring process so that it doesn't feel like I'm completely searching for just the female and there's only the males that are applying. If you put it in a way that allows people to feel that they could apply for it, maybe that's part of the barrier, but that's just my 2 cents to add to that.
So now we're on my passion topic. So I could talk all day about this. You're gonna have to shut me up. But we know that women apply for jobs when they meet all the required and all the preferred qualifications, while men will apply if they meet 60% of just the required, right? Like we know that. We know that there is secret gender language in job descriptions. There are places online where you can run your job ad, and it can pull out all of that gender language. Looking absolutely at your job requirements. George Shako, my friend at ISE University, he took the physical demand requirement out of his job description and immediately started getting women out. And has hired several women since then. He said all he really did was take out that, you must be able to lift and carry 50 pounds or whatever.
Wow.
So
The little things.
Little things can make big differences. Yeah.
So speaking on that, so what's our time check? Where are we at? We have. All right. Because speaking of, all right, I'm gonna do it because I got two people on an opposite up. Speaking of having to know and say the right words, big boy pants.
Oh, Joe Way. Oh, did you get him too? We talked about this, and I think it's in that particular situation, we want to go back to that article, and with knowledge of you and where it came from and the context. We have to be careful about our words, but we also have to be mindful that we're not shooting down somebody who actually is inadequate. I think that I say this a lot, the common sense is not common, unfortunately. And shooting you down just stops somebody else from doing it, instead of actually unpacking it and saying, okay, why might this not be, or why might this be upsetting for some people to read? Why could there be a better choice of words? But you know what, we can't just eliminate every word from the dictionary because somebody might be upset by it either. It's just take it in the context, apply some reasoning to it, look at who it is, look at the wider message, and then decide whether it's actually offensive or not.
And then there's the side, yeah.
So just for our listeners who may not know, so Joe wrote an article where he suggested that the AV industry needed to pull up its big boy pants. And so I immediately messaged him and said, well, you just excluded me and a lot of other people from that article. I do think that words matter. And I think what I said to you was big kid pants would have achieved the exact same thing, but not have had that gender connotation, right? So I think, but that being said, I 100% agree that I think it's important that we all assume that we're all trying to be better and do better, right? That we all have a growth mindset together, right? So rather than attack people or assume that their intentions were bad, approach them with, care and consideration and assume that they want to hear, how they could have done better next time, right? And not just.
Yeah.
So I'm learning the hard way that words do matter. I'm a native Californian, and I say you guys, hey guys, a lot. And I have been corrected a lot lately because, I don't.
It's not gender contextual to
I just don't
Californians.
think about it when when you grow up so many years and you've used hey guys your whole life. I just didn't think about it until someone schooled me on why that was not a good thing to use. So every time I catch myself saying it, I'm like, okay, yeah. So I'm trying to retrain my brain to say it. But words are very intentional, and I think it's very important to remember who your audience is, and how you're using those words, the context and everything, because we are listening. So.
Yeah, no, that's good. And I think it kind of all goes, as we wrap up, just almost back to that first question, of a lot of times you don't know until you're made aware. So I think the fine line is I am someone who also wants to learn. I don't know that everybody does, but it's having those conversations, building the allies together and going, let's go through this learning experiment together. And then hopefully other people will join in as we're doing it, right? I mean, that was my summary of kind of this conversation that we had. So just in closing, I'm just going to pass it down one by one and just give one little nugget. Now, we're at ISE, so we have to at least ask an ISE question. What's one thing we can do at this show to improve this situation, this issue? I don't know how to say anything.
Be an ally, not just on the show floor or when you're being blocked on a stand, but even socially in the evenings when you're out. Be an ally, look out for each other, be a good friend.
I like that.
I love that, and I'll second that. And what I'll add to it is, I think, oh gosh, I just had one of those moments where I had the thought and it just went right out of my mind. So what I was thinking was just talk to each other. I mean, I'm not going to learn from you and from you and from you if I don't ask the questions. I know sometimes it's kind of scary to ask the questions, but I feel like I would rather ask the question and know and feel maybe a minute of foolishness than to continue the behavior and be foolish the whole time. So.
Yeah.
So I think bringing it back to the story I told at the beginning about my experience at the booth, which is my experience at every show, right? And the experience of many women at these shows. And, you're automatically, corporations are automatically setting a bad tone with women like me who have money to spend, right? When I have my experience at that booth. So I think one thing is I would really encourage, corporations to consider maybe doing some training with their booth staff about how to be very, inclusive and make sure and welcoming to everyone who comes up to the booth and not to make assumptions about them. So I think just on a very practical note, it would be very simple, like a 1 hour training, and now, you're creating a more inclusive and welcoming environment, and therefore getting people looking at your products, which is the goal. Right?
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, thank you, the three of you. You are the three women in this industry I respect more than anything, and so for you to take this time and have this conversation means a lot to me. And I know you all have things that you'd rather do than sit here and talk to me, so I appreciate it. And hopefully everyone, again, I think those are three really amazing tips and a great conversation. I just encourage you, take it, do something with it, and let's not have the conversation end. So thank you, everyone, and thank you for listening to the Higher Ed AV podcast.